is an Unspoiled Network podcast. This is Unspoiled, covering The Leftovers, Season 3, Episode 8, The Book of Nora. In this episode, I didn't know what to think was happening. I thought, did one of Kevin's doppelgangers come back from the other side instead of Kevin? And forget everything that Kevin knew? What's he doing? What are you doing? Oh, no, baby, what is you doing? Welcome to Unspoiled.
Someday he'll come along, the man I love, and he'll be big and strong, the man I love. And when it comes my way, I'll do my best to make him stay.
Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm Natasha.
And I am Rashawn.
And Rashawn has seen all of this before, and I have seen all of it by now. I have officially caught up, and this is the last one. It's kind of shocking.
One.
Damn.
Yeah. I was so sad to see the show go.
This last episode was really good.
Yeah.
Can
I tell you a secret?
Did not know what to expect. What?
I hated this episode when it aired.
Really?
Hated it.
Interesting.
And I was furious. I was like that gif, of Kermit typing. I was so mad. I was so mad. I watched it with my husband, which we don't watch a lot of TV together. But we watched the season together as much as we could. And I watched it with him and got up in disgust and left the room. I was so fucking mad. Yeah.
Now I'm gonna hazard a guess. Once I'll let you finish, but I just want to guess later what it was that made you so mad.
Go ahead, because I was moving right into there. So
I'm guessing you did not like that the question got answered.
Oh no, that wasn't my main gripe. I really did not like what happened with Lori. I was really upset because I thought for sure she had decided to kill herself, and that for whatever reasons the show backed out, and it felt like they had pulled the stunt,
pulled a fast one on you.
Pulled a fast one.
That's interesting because that didn't it wasn't even until after I finished and I stopped and I was like, oh, and Lori was alive. Huh. Yeah.
And
that was not a big thing to me.
I was really curious when I asked you about it in the last podcast, and you were very open and found that scene ambiguous in a way that I did not. I was 100% sure she killed herself. But I watched the episode several times right after it aired. I just kept coming home and watching it. And each time I watched it, I loved it more. It was weird. It was probably one of the only times where I ended it and was like, that I didn't like that at all. And had to go back and watch it a couple times. And then, even when I watched it tonight, I was just so moved by it. But yeah, initially, I was disgruntled.
Yeah, it's so funny to me because that just is was such a non-factor to me. And I figured that, so much of what we've talked about previous has been, it doesn't matter what happened to everybody. That's not the point of the show. So the fact that they really went and gave us a definitive answer and gave Nora a definitive closure is in many ways kind of...
that you're calling it definitive.
It feels definitive. It feels like she believes it.
That was going to be my question for towards the end. Do you believe Nora's story?
I definitely believe her Nora's story.
Excellent.
I'm in the place of Dumbledore being like, of course it's happening in your head, and what makes that mean that it's not real?
Right.
How
appropriate that we just saw that, huh?
Right. But yeah, I I expected the show to never answer anything and not give her closure and basically be like, that's life, sister, figure it out. And
Right.
she decided, well, I figure it out by getting in this crazy ass machine. And that's the end of that. And instead, that's not the end of that, which is just, you know, if whether she went in or not was, I figured that she did, but if she hadn't, I would have been like, all right, fine. I sure as fuck didn't expect her to go in and get out again.
Right.
You know? So this and the whole lead up to it, man. All right, let's start off. Because she is giving her statement that everybody gave at the start, saying, this is today's paper, this is my name and birthday, I'm doing this of my own free will, I'm not holding them accountable for anything that's happened to me.
And they don't buy it.
Not at all.
They give her such a hard time through this whole, you know, like, if you think back to her tracking them down in Australia and then them denying her and then she has to chase them down and force them to let her. They really don't want to let her do this thing.
I was glad to see this because I think I had said she's really taken it for granted that she can track them down and they will just let her in.
Yeah. When we see at the end of the last episode, it's just her, you know, they don't know she's there yet.
Yeah.
And the question is, like, you were like, well, she's just thinking she's just going to waltz in and they're just going to be like, here you go. Mm-hmm. But we also know that Nora's not taking no for an answer. And she probably just fucking bullied them.
Yeah, like, once I learned, like, how exactly this goes, my idea of what might have happened wasn't possible. Mm-hmm. But there was a second where I was like, is she just going to, like, sprint past them?
Oh, my God. How funny would that be?
You know, and just slam the door shut behind her. You're not getting me out, coppers! Like, but it's not something that functions that way. So it wouldn't have been...
Yeah. What did you think of the process that we got to see what she done? What did you think of that?
Listen, hold on. We're jumping ahead again.
Okay.
Let's go.
Okay.
So yeah.
Much. I just want to talk about it.
I know. So they make her repeat it and she has to include her kids' names this time. And this time she gets choked up and it seems like that's more acceptable to them. And I'm just like, you know, y'all need to kind of maybe not be so goddamn particular for a second because
you know it's do you think it's weird that is what they were looking for when they made a whole big deal about how she's not supposed to care?
Well, see, that was the thing though, right? Was that I didn't feel like that she wasn't supposed to care. I felt like it was that they knew she was full of shit. And that's what they say here is that they feel like she's lying. And I think there is because we don't know how this machine works, right? Like, all we know is that there's radiation and that's pretty much the extent of it. And I'm wondering if there isn't in their minds an element of faith that absolutely has to be there in order for them to get where they're supposed to go.
Now, did I ever share with you? I know I made a statement that I didn't want to spoil it, and then I don't know if I ever came back to it. But what the right answer to the question about killing the baby is?
We never, like, we talked about it, but we didn't, like, I said that I didn't think that there was a right answer.
The theory is, or one of the theories is, that the right answer should have been, you don't care about, like, what difference does it make whether or not you kill a baby and it's going to cure cancer, or you don't kill the baby and it's not going to cure cancer, because you're not going to be here. It doesn't matter to you. That's the answer that they were looking for.
Oh.
So that's why when the guy says, you know, I answered it one way and then she answers it the opposite way and they're both the wrong answer. That's one of the theories anyway.
Yeah, I guess. I don't get that though. I don't feel like that's true because this doesn't feel like something. This is not a mission of people who don't give a shit about anything anymore. This is a mission of people who give very many shits about one particular thing.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be a mission of people who don't care about this world anymore.
Okay, I guess so. But nobody's going to say I don't care. Like,
no.
That's just when somebody's asking you a series of questions to determine your eligibility for something that you really want. You're not going to say who gives a shit in response. Nobody's going to say that.
Yeah.
You know, I don't buy it.
Unless that's really how you feel.
Unless it's really how you feel. But I just, you know, it's like being in a job interview. And then being like, well, you know, what would you do if a customer said such and such about you? And you were like, well, sometimes a customer's wrong. What are you going to fucking do, you know? Like, that's just not human nature. You give them, you try and please the person who's giving you something in your eyes, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I would think that nobody would expect for them to react in a positive way to saying, I just don't care. But, I mean, I don't know. That's a theory. Sure. Whatever. You know, weirdos. So she does this finally. She walks past this huge globe with like a human shape in it. And Matt is like, what's that? And he says, was that a person? And she says, that was a fossil. The person is gone. And that's the first moment that you really see him be like, what is she doing? And then they take her into this like side area where they explain how this works. Dislike. This utterly terrified me. I'm not kidding. They're like, so you're going to have to pass the laser array while it cycles up. Don't touch it. You might get nauseous as you walk by it. No big deal. Climb through the exit port and then get into the little round ball
egg
thing and latch it shut, and it sticks. And then we're going to fill it with something that looks like water, but it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to have to hold your breath, but don't you breathe that shit in. And then we will charge it because that liquid is filled with metals. And those metals will be irradiated, so they will harden. No, sister, not on my life. Not happening. This was so much more understandable that Nora was going to like go through with it when it was just her walking into a room and being zapped with something.
Right.
But this is so much more involved
mm-hmm.
and so much scarier.
Yeah. Much more deliberate.
So much more isolating. Oh, I hate it so much. And the fact that she still was going through with it, I was a little surprised. Like, I figured she wouldn't back down quite yet, but I kind of thought she would pull back.
There's a moment where she's in the little egg and the lights kind of go out, and I thought, this is it. This is where she freaks out.
Mm.
This is where she freaks out and starts banging on the plexiglass and says, no, no, no.
Yeah.
And the scene is cut pretty short after the lights go out, but you don't see that reaction in her.
Yeah.
So I guess we are led to believe that she doesn't have that moment, even though we don't really know for sure.
I mean, there's the moment where she shouts at the end that looks like she's trying to get out.
Right. But it's so fast.
Because they cut from her yelling to then her in Australia, and I thought she had just gotten out.
Mm.
I thought that she got out, but was like, oh, but I'm not going back with Kevin.
Right.
I'm just going to stay here. Fuck that.
Yeah. And that's how it feels for the episode. Because, again, the way it's shot and the way it cuts so quickly, we don't know. Like, well, fuck, did she bail? Mm-hmm. And now she's just living this life. Which, by the way, her house is adorable. And she's kind of living my dream. Like, I don't want to be here anymore, but I don't actually I don't want to be dead either. So maybe I'll just go to Australia and live in the outback in a cute house and raise birds.
Yeah, the house inside, when they show us the inside, because from the outside, it's just kind of whatever.
Yeah.
And then you go in, and I was like, what?
Same,
like, it is
same.
beautiful in there.
It's got like a little spiral staircase in the corner. It's all cozy looking. Yeah, it's nice.
But yeah, like the way that they jump from her yelling to then her there, I figured that she just basically decided to check out of the life that she had had rather than killing herself, which made a lot of sense. And I kind of, for a minute, entertained the notion that maybe she had gone over and this was the other side. But
I did that.
It didn't feel right. And then when Kevin shows up, I, for a second, was like, well, maybe this is a different version of Kevin from the other side, and that's why he doesn't know her. But she reacted like he was supposed to know her, which she wouldn't have done. So it was just, I kept going back and forth on all kinds of things. It was very disorienting
because we have simultaneously Kevin presenting himself as if everything we saw in season 2 didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
We can see on Nora's face that it's bullshit, but she doesn't call him like right out on it in any specific way.
Mm-hmm.
When I watched this originally, I had the same thought you did. I was like, is this the other side? Is this where she ended up?
Mm-hmm.
And then when he shows up and he's just like, whoa, we talked one time. I was like, what the fuck? Like, is this a weird alternate reality?
Mm-hmm.
Where the Kevin on this side doesn't know about the history she had with the Kevin on the other side?
Yeah, I thought that it was the Kevin, like, when he blew up the other side on his mission, that something had happened and he brought back over the second version of himself. Like, I was just like, I was not prepared to let go of any, because, Twin Peaks, there's this whole, like, doppelganger thing. And I kind of thought maybe they were doing that sort of jam.
And because they had played around with that idea in the Most Powerful Man in the World episode, it wouldn't be that far-fetched, to play around with ideas of, like, 2 Kevins.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was fucked this whole episode watching it the first time. I just didn't know what the hell was going on.
So then there's this really sweet moment where her and Matt play Matt Libs.
I love this.
And
I love Matt's face when they carry the fossil by too earlier.
Oh my God, yeah.
And it's like a moment of, he's like, wait.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't do anything. He doesn't say anything, but on his face, you can see him being like, wait, am I really going to let this happen?
Mm-hmm.
Should I let this happen? Which makes their moment together when they're talking, all the better.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually watched this episode with Owen, which is weird when, he's hardly seen any of the rest of the show.
Yeah.
And this moment with Matt talking and getting really emotional, talking about his kid, and Owen just goes, babe, he's so good.
Yeah,
I was like,
he
sure is.
When he tells her if he were a good man, he would be trying to stop her. And she says, you're a good man because you're not.
Mm-hmm.
Holy moly, guys. Jesus Christ, all the feelings. I mean, that you could lay all your own shit on top of that, which is what I like to do when I watch television. So I don't know. That moment was so tender. And what it takes to let a loved one do something, it doesn't have to be as drastic as getting into a fucking microwave, but when you love someone enough to let them do something that will cause you, pain, but it's the thing that they need to do. When you have that moment with someone, it is hard, I think, for a show to recreate that.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And I thought they did a really good job.
Yeah, and it's just like a really, the things have been so tumultuous that we forget that they cared about each other the way that they did,
Yep.
So we really get to see this moment of, connection between a brother and sister.
Yeah. She reminds him, I thought it was great, the story about how when she goes to camp, she calls it Camp Hell and like Hellfire and Damnation,
Yes.
which I feel like is appropriate.
Correct.
Man is like, no, it was the Church of something really nice.
Camp of the Holy Spirit, I think.
Which is innocuous enough.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like her description was better. And
to me, it's the part that's innocuous that makes me nervous. Mm-hmm.
And she says that he wrote her letters all the time, and he always addressed them as to the bravest girl on Earth.
Yeah.
And that is so sweet.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, you know what? Nora is a character throughout the whole series, could be troubling because she was just so much raw anger,
mm-hmm.
And anguish, just walking around in, lady slacks. But, she...
What a weird way to say that. Okay.
She's like always in her, her business professional slacks, working for the DSD and all that stuff. But she was just this ball of pain that we watched walk around for 3 seasons, and we watched her lash out at people and be incredibly brutal, to the point where I think we begin to not think of Nora as being brave, but the fact that she continued to be after losing her family that way is sort of a bravery.
Mm-hmm.
And to see her be framed that way, even if it's just for a minute in the last episode, I thought was fair,
Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of because he's saying that she's so brave, and then he says, "I'm afraid," and she's like, "I'll be fine," and he's like, "Not for you, bitch."
Yeah. He's
I'm like, afraid for me. You'll be fine.
You're always fine.
I thought that was hilarious.
And then, he talks about going back home to Mary, which we find out later is what he did.
Mm-hmm.
It was just great. It was a great Matt scene too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was a Nora moment, but it was a really good Matt scene.
Yeah, I mean, we really get to finally actually hear him say that he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing for the first time ever.
Yeah, and I think we talked about that, wondering how his faith was tested after his boat ride, and where he was going to be after all that. And here we get to see that he really is shaken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that he's shaken in the exact way that you want to be shaken, which is that he still seems to believe in God and that there is something happening, but he's just like, I don't have a fucking clue.
Yeah.
And that is the correct place to be, in my opinion.
Yeah,
no, you don't.
I
Good.
Agree. He, his faith is still there, but his certainty is what is kind of askew now.
Mm-hmm.
He was so sure for so long that he knew what the fuck was up, and he was in a place to tell people what was up. You know? Which is part of the job when you lead a church. That's part of your deal. That's what you do.
Right.
You tell people. And to hear him say, like, how am I supposed to stand up in front of people? And tell them anything.
Mm-hmm.
Which maybe would be a better, maybe that's what I like about the Quakers, is that nobody stands up.
Right? Everybody's just like, let's just all sit here in our ignorance together. Just marinate in how much of a fuck up we all are.
Yeah, and how much we don't know.
Yep.
Let's all just be together in that. Nobody's better than anybody. We're all just here, not knowing what the fuck's going on.
Now we call that Tumblr. So here goes the scene where she gets into the machine, and it is so goddamn terrifying. I was a wreck watching this
Were
scene.
you really?
Oh, completely. Listen. It was just the fact that I had not expected her to have to hold her breath and be submerged in a liquid and going in there all alone and having to do a bunch of shit without them being even remotely around or involved. I just didn't expect this to be this way at all.
Yeah.
And it was so lonely and scary and it's like an MRI machine from hell where
That's
it's
a really
super
good
loud in
description.
there.
All the clicks and the noises and the beat. I do like that Matt was on the intercom, so he was kind of there in her very last moments. But you're right, it was very isolated. And yeah, it was tiny too.
Oh my God.
Little itty bitty ball.
Everything about it gave me agita. Everything. Like, it's just the tiny little ball, the sounds. Even though Matt was there, and that seemed to, like, give her comfort, it didn't really give me comfort. Like, it was just, the whole thing is so... And so when she starts to finally scream at the end, it's like, it's so far to the end by then.
Yeah.
That
I remember... Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, like, that I was almost like, how is that when you lost your nerve?
Yeah.
How is that the moment? Because it has been, like, by then, just, you're there now. Yeah. Just go ahead then, like, you've gotten through, in my mind, the worst part. You're neck deep in
some mysterious
radiation liquid. Yeah.
I like too the scientist, the physicist. She calls it fluid. She never says liquid.
Yes,
fluid, which somehow makes it worse. I vaguely remember talk when the episode aired that not everyone was sure that she screams at the end. Some people thought that was just her doing like a last deep gasp of breath.
That was a scream.
I feel like it leaned towards a scream, but I was never 100% sure what type of scream it was. And I'm still not. Like, I still can't say it was definitely a scream of what the fuck am I doing? Like, I feel like it could very well have just been a scream of release,
Yeah, that's true.
But just the whole scene is hard to watch.
Yeah, it is.
And it's so, this is going to sound really stupid, but it's so, in the grand scheme of things, but it's so extreme what she's doing if we stop and think about it for just a second.
Yep.
She's getting into a mysterious machine that's going to do something, but we don't know what. And she is just like, yeah, this is what I'm doing. Yep, this is what I'm doing. Which is insane.
Right? Yeah, I think, like when I really stop and think about it, it's not just the fact that it was so isolating and scary and everything. The other thing that I think really gets me is that she has to make one choice after another to keep going. And I think that's part of what got to me a little bit, is that she could have, if they had set this up a different way, she could be ushered into a room, locked in there by someone else,
right,
and made to feel like this is being done to her. Right. And who knows if I wanted to stop, whether they would let me. But in this situation, every single step is up to her to take.
That's what I meant earlier when I said it. She's so deliberate about it. Like, she is at every step. She's the one making the decision. But she kind of has been, though, the whole time. I mean, she literally chased them down. One of the other weird theories about the question was that, well, weird theory isn't fair. Just one of the other theories about the question was that it wasn't the question or the answer that mattered. It was your reaction to when they told you no. Was like the quote unquote the real test.
That's interesting. I like that. I think that's kind of what I was saying with like the idea of being rejected from Judaism like 3 times before. It's just like that's sort of a similar idea.
Right.
How bad do you want this?
Yeah, how bad do you? Exactly. So, oh man.
But yeah, this like, and also it just looks so freaking cold. They're on this like cliffside.
I thought about that. I was like, I wonder if that fluid is heated.
It looks frigid outside. Everything's metal and glass inside. Like, everything just looks so cold. Ugh. do not care for it. And when she's like taking a breath, I would get so paranoid that I was going to swallow that, even though they had told me not to.
Mm-hmm.
I would totally be pinching my nose. I know I would.
I like that the doctor is like, well, you don't want to swallow it because it'll be solid.
Right.
So you'll just wake up somewhere with your lungs.
Oh my God.
So, yeah.
So we cut from there to the scene that we saw at the end of the very first episode, which is her collecting her doves and delivering them to a nun and getting paid.
A very saucy nun, it turns out.
This nun cracks me up. And she asks her, does the name Kevin mean anything to you? And that's where it had ended after she says no.
Mm-hmm.
But this time we see her say, he was here looking for you, showing your picture around. And Nora goes home and tries to be cool, but she freaks out and starts to pack. And is about to like run out the door. And there's Kevin.
There's Kevin.
And
it's funny, we were just talking about makeup aging people up when we did the Harry Potter, Deathly Hallows the other day. So here we see two actors aged up about, I don't know, how many years you think? Maybe 15, 20 years?
15, I was thinking.
15 seems about right. Which I thought they did well.
It's really good age makeup.
Yeah.
Because they get up close.
Yeah, they do.
You know, a lot of times when they do age makeup, they kind of start filming things from afar for a little bit to cover it. They don't do that. Yeah, I'd be curious to know how they did some of that, because like they have this real crepey look
around the
skin.
neck.
Yeah.
They did it on Kevin too, which I was really impressed by, because a lot of times they'll skip that on male actors.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they just like they'll make sure that the skin on women as they age up, they'll do that thing where it gets sort of thinner and whatever, but they just completely skip it on the men.
Mm-hmm.
But they took care of Kevin too, and he still looked good. I don't care.
Yeah, he does.
He did. He still looked good. And he comes up with this bullshit story that nobody's buying.
I was just like, I don't even know. Like I said, I thought maybe this was a different version of him, except that he seemed so emotional at seeing her. Mm-hmm. Even though he's trying to cover it up.
Yeah.
I was just like, okay, I think he's full of shit, but like, also like, did that fucking heart attack he had wipe his memory? Like,
when he says at the door, it's me, Kevin Garvey. Mm-hmm. Like, she don't know who this is. Mm-hmm. And I love her face when he says his last name. You know, because her face is just like, the fuck? Of course I know who you are. Like, what are you doing here? And he's just so committed to the story he's going to tell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he tells her, anyway, there's a dance. You can't miss it. I'll be there if you want to. Mm-hmm. And he takes off.
Yeah, she's like, you have to go. Please leave.
Yeah.
You have to go. And he's like, oh, well, you know, we met one time in the hallway, and I was, you know, I saw you in town. I'm here on vacation. Mm-hmm. And she's just like, you have to go and take all of this nonsense with you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's like, you showed a picture of me to a nun at a convent, and he's like, why would I have a picture of you?
Right. Which this irritated me only because personal reasons. This is like, don't do that, Kevin.
Gaslighting shit.
Yeah, right? Don't do that.
Okay. Have you seen Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind?
I have.
This reminded me, especially once we get to the end, so much of that. Of, hey, why don't we just erase? And in the end, we know we're going to wind up in the exact same fucking place because we are both the people that we are. Mm-hmm. But also, I really love you. So, oh well. So I'm going to do it. We're going to do this dumb thing that isn't going to work, probably. Because you know what? What else? That's it. That's who we are. That's what we're going to do. And we've been down this road before, and we're going to just go ahead and do it again.
Yep, because that's what we do.
And it's gorgeous, and I love it. So finally he leaves, and she goes and uses the exact same phone booth, if I'm not mistaken, that Kevin Senior used.
Oh my God, that's so great. I don't know if it is, but I love the idea that it
I
is.
think it's the exact same one. Because the way that it was shot and everything on that road, I think it really is.
I love that. I love that it might be the same phone booth.
But she goes and calls Lori and demands if Lori told him where she is. And Lori's like, of course I didn't. And you know I didn't. So if you know I didn't, why are you here talking to me?
What did you think when she called Lori?
Again, I forgot all about that.
Did you?
So
okay.
I didn't think anything.
Okay.
I was just like, oh, she's calling Lori. Everybody calls Lori.
That
was my reaction.
Is true. Everybody does call Lori.
You know.
And as well they should.
Yeah. She does have some sense.
Yeah. Who would have thought, considering how we first met her, right? That she would end up being a character that you would want people to turn to.
I guess it's true what they say, that you want somebody who's like been in the shit, you know, so that they know and get it.
Yeah.
Because I don't think if she hadn't been where she had been with the GR, that she would have like given Nora her blessing and hugged her and said she wouldn't say to anyone.
Agreed. And I don't think without Lori's GR history, I don't think Nora trusts her to understand. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I love that relationship that ended up developing with them, even though we didn't get to see it. I love the idea that Lori and Nora have this thing that exists outside of Kevin.
Yeah.
And outside of the two of their relationships with him. I love the show. I love that the show included that and made that a thing, because it really didn't have to, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It could have been a show that makes Lori nothing but the ex-wife, mm-hmm. and Nora nothing but the new love interest, you know.
Yeah.
And that they have all this weird, unnecessary tension and dislike of each other, and the show didn't do that.
The only thing that I thought when I saw Lori was like, did she have a kid? But then we find out that their daughter had a baby.
Right.
So, you know, that's her granddaughter. But for a second I was like, really? That seems unlikely. And then I was like, oh, that baby's white. What? Like,
yeah.
You know, the whole thing. I was just going all over the place. I do want to touch on the fucking landscape. Because this is some of the most beautiful scenery.
Oh, God, yeah.
Like, on any show.
If I hadn't have posted that giant fucking spider today, I would be saying all kinds of great things about Australia right now. But since I did, I won't be.
I swear to God, what is it? It's like Australia got boiled down and everything that wasn't horrifying died off in the boiling, and only the worst things were left, like at the bottom of the bucket. But yeah, the like huge field of yellow flowers that she rides her bike through. Later on, when she's like riding to and from the dance, there's this amazing green hillside with the like starry sky behind it, mm-hmm. where despite that it's very dark, you can see the green of the grass. Like, the kind of things that you're just like, how does that work? And I really, you know, like, the feel of this whole episode is a new start. And everything in this episode is like green and alive and farms and fertility, and the ground is even like wet with rain. You know, it's all so fresh and new feeling.
Yeah. It's like filled with potential. Mm-hmm. Everything in every frame is like promise of something new.
Mm-hmm. So Lori's like, so you just want permission to go to the dance? And Nora's like, I don't want to go to the fucking dance. And Lori just sort of laughs and goes, yeah, okay.
But if you did want to go, that would be okay.
Oh my God, I could not. I loved her so much.
Lori keeps going, she's like, And Nora's like, what the fuck does that mean?
So Nora goes home and does the thing that she does, which is closes off completely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She closes everything that can be closed in her her house. Like every door, every window, all the drapes. And then for some reason decides to close the bathroom door, which clearly has not been a thing because she's got some kind of brick in front of it to hold it open.
And she has to lift it up.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even like attached to the door jamb properly.
Yeah. Which, if you live alone, of course you don't shut the bathroom door. Why would you? Especially if you live in the middle of nowhere. No one's looking in your windows. But this night, she decides everything has to be closed. And we all know why.
She feels exposed.
Mm-hmm.
She just can't. It's just too...
Yeah. And then she gets fucking locked in because the show is like, you're going to get this.
It's so funny, too, because it feels like she purposefully decided to do this, like, lazy night in, taking a bath and relaxing, in order to really prove that she didn't intend to go to the dance.
Mm-hmm.
It was like her trying so hard to be like, nope, I'm totally not playing this game. I'm getting in the tub. It's going to be great.
Yep. But then the minute the choice is removed, and it seems like she might, that she might not be able to go. Yeah, she loses her shit.
Yep.
And she busts through that door like that door owed her money.
It really is just such a great little summary of who Nora is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be stubborn, completely close off, but don't you dare tell me I can't do the thing.
Right.
Like, girl, you just did everything to not do the thing. Well, maybe I did, but that's me. You don't get to say shit to me about it. And as soon as you do, she's like, I'm going to do the thing. You just told me you didn't. I don't care what I said. I just said this thing just now. It's so great. So she has to like burst into tears and shove her entire body against that door and flatten it. And we all know she's going to this dance by now. Like, come on. And I love the moment where she's like laying on top of the door, panting and like looking shocked, because it's almost like she's realizing that Lori said the true thing. Yeah. And she
it's like she
couldn't believe it.
Yeah, she has a moment where she's like, oh shit, I guess that is what I'm going to do. I guess that's what I was going to do all along. Imagine that.
Oh my God. So she rides her bike down there in the least dance looking outfit ever made by human hands. And goes to the center of town. And it turns out that it is not a dance. It's a wedding.
It's a fucking
that
wedding.
She's crashing.
And she's woefully underdressed for.
She sure is. It looks great.
Oh, I love this wedding. I love Aggie. I love Eddie. I love the wedding. Yeah.
Yeah, they have all these hay bales stacked up to look like couches. They've got a couple of giant fire pits that people are gathered around outside. All these string lights, tables for people to like stand at. It's just set up just great. It's, as somebody who like, I am a planner. I like to plan parties. I like to plan events. This is my jam. I was looking at all the details like, somebody knew what they were doing when they did this. And some guy comes up to her and is like, where are your beads? She's like, you get the fuck away from me.
Yeah, she's like, no, thank you. Nora is who I want to be when I grow up without all the, like, terribleness. But yeah, she's just like, yeah, no, thank you.
And she's looking around, realizes that it's a wedding, and kind of gets a look like she's about to leave. And then she sees Kevin and stops, and he sees her. And he keeps up with this whole charade.
This whole thing. He will not let it go. And she's like baiting him a little bit, a couple of different times. And he just won't budge on it.
I love have you ever seen a goat sacrificed before? No, that would be weird. Like, that is a true answer. That would be weird. But it's just, like, I loved watching this, knowing that something's weird here, but I couldn't decide what it was. And his responses to everything all felt so true
Right.
if he didn't know her. Like when she knows his kids' names, and he's like, "That's a little creepy, but well done."
But yeah, I'm impressed. He said something that she asked about his father, and he's like, he's still around, he's live and kicking. And she says, or he makes a joke about him being immortal. And she then makes a joke about him being immortal. And he's like, me? No.
I have a pacemaker now. I'm old. Oh, God. When she says, "How did you find me?" And he says, "I'm in vacation in Australia." And he looks, there's this flicker, and you're like, something.
Yeah.
What is this, though?
Yeah.
This whole thing.
And then when they dance, I think she asked him again, and he says it again.
Yeah.
And there's a scene during the wedding after the toast, they let the birds go, and they're Nora's birds.
Mm-hmm.
And they all have these little notes of love that are written on pieces of paper and tied to their legs.
Right.
And she asked him what he wrote, and he says something like, "That's for the lonely Eskimo to find out." Just kind of like an offhand, kind of weird, thing to say, like, "Oh, I didn't write anything serious."
Right.
But then later we see, there's no way to know if it's his or not. But when she's going through the pieces of paper later with the goat,
mm-hmm.
and you see a note that says, "I know you're out there."
Yeah.
And you're just like, was that you, Kevin?
Yeah, I really wonder, because that's the kind of thing that he could write, or somebody who's just like looking for the one could write, like, and the bride and groom, Aggie and Eddie, is it? Oh, are they adorable?
They are so adorable.
Aggie's wreath of flowers on her head and everything. It's just so cute. I love it. And they have everybody basically give their beads to this goat as a symbol of getting rid of their sins. And unburdening themselves.
Putting it on the scapegoat.
And Nora, of course, does not participate as she has no beads.
She comes over, Aggie comes over and is like, "Do you want to write a note?" And Nora's like, "No, thank you."
Oh, she's a romantic. And we have this whole sequence of him leading the goat around and everything. And, yeah, I mean, he even initiates the thing where he's like, at least they didn't sacrifice it.
Mm-hmm.
And he he just couldn't resist.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it so much. So yeah, then he's like, "Do you want to dance?" And it's so fucking emotional.
Oh, God.
It was brutal.
They fucking play a Otis Redding song, and I'm just like, all the feelings that I ever had in the entirety of my life, I had again for 2 seconds. Because it was just too much.
Oh, my God.
It was too much.
I cried like 3 times during this episode, I swear to God.
I believe it. Yeah.
And the way he's crying, and I'm like, all right, so it's finally cracking here. He's just going to tell her. Mm-hmm. But he doesn't.
He is holding on to this story for fucking dear life.
Yep.
Like it is the very breath that he needs to breathe. He can't let it go. And it really feels like in this moment, you're right, that he's just going to finally break down and just fucking tell her the truth. Mm-hmm. And it really looks like he has to use everything he has to not tell her the truth. Like it takes every bit that he has in him to say it one last time. I'm on vacation. I saw you ride by and blah, blah, blah. And she looks how I felt. Like, really? God damn
when
it.
she walks out and leaves him there,
mm-hmm.
and he's just standing on the dance floor with his like shoulders a little hunched, like he's gonna break.
Yeah.
Oh, can I handle it? I can't.
Yeah. She says, I can't do this. And he's like, but why not? She says, because it's not true. It's bullshit. And I'm just like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about, Nora.
Right.
That's never occurred to me in real life. What are you talking about? And you think he's going to like run after her, but he doesn't.
No, he just watches her go. And she goes home and clearly expects all of her doves to be there, and they are not there. And rather than be like, maybe these doves will come back tomorrow, she gets back on her bike and decides to go to the nun to demand answers.
Right.
To this impossible thing.
Yeah, and there's this weird little thing the show decided to throw in.
Mm-hmm.
Where there's some random dude leaving on a motorcycle.
Yeah. This was super weird. Like, I didn't even understand initially that where he was coming out of was somebody's room.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's such an odd positioning of everything that I thought he was, like, in the attic of, like, their storage shed. Because that spot did not look like a place people lived.
Gotcha.
You know? But he like, stops and, like, crosses himself before he gets on his bike and leaves.
Oh, he's a good Catholic.
And it's just very, like, the whole thing. And then when she, like, isn't getting the answer she wants from the nun, she tries to throw it in her face.
Yeah, she does the thing that Nora does.
And, like, the nun just is so unperturbed.
Yep. She's not having any of Nora's shit right now.
Oh, my God.
And it was what was needed, I feel like.
Agreed. Yeah, Nora tries to be like, you are a liar. And she looks at her and is like, oh, really? Am I?
Mm-hmm.
Sure seemed like you knew that guy you said you didn't know at all.
Right.
Weird.
I love that her face, too, while she's delivering these lines. She's got this big smile on her face.
Mm-hmm.
And she's so unbothered,
mm-hmm.
you know? And Nora is pissed.
She needs, like, what?
She,
what? You know what it is? It's like this one other thing in her life is a complete mess, and she needs to at least know where her birds are.
And there was a thing too. What does she say at the beginning of the episode? Who does Nora tell when she says, I don't lie? Is that at the beginning when she's doing the interview with the newspaper?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
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 And when she says it, she blinks.
Yeah.
You know, she can't even say it without, nah. But yeah, when she says, where are my birds? Oh, maybe they're delivering the messages of love, which is like the worst thing to say. Don't try and sell that bullshit to me. I'm not trying to sell you anything. It's just a nicer story.
Mm-hmm.
Which, at least she's being honest about that.
Yeah. And I feel like that is almost like the whole thing of this whole episode, of this whole series.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a nicer story. I found myself getting really stuck on that line as I watched this finale.
You know, yeah. I could see that. Oh my God, I certainly haven't seen any men on ladders. I'm just like watching this moment unfold. You had sex with him. No, I did not. Yes, you did. Did not. Then swear to God. Fine. I swear to God. You're a fucking liar. And she just smiles at her.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. This nun, I don't know what exactly her deal is, because maybe she did fuck that guy. Maybe she didn't fuck that guy. Maybe she just, like, lays next to him and it's a forbidden affair. You know what I mean? Like, it's just
maybe he was climbing out of somebody else's room.
Maybe so. And she, like, is aware of it, so it wasn't a shock, but she's also not going to get that girl in trouble, and so isn't saying anything.
And she's not the one fucking him, so it's not really a lie.
Or maybe he's fucking all of them.
Oh my God.
Who knows? It's like the Holy Grail, and it's just a whole convent full of hot nuns. But yeah, Nora cannot handle being called out, and so she heads home, and there is a pretty brutal looking crash on the road.
Yeah.
Where the beads have gotten tangled up in her bicycle tire.
Because the show is too much. Always doing too damn much. For real. So, and normally I would hate a show that does this much.
That, like, I was thinking that, to be honest, while I was watching it, like, why does this work when normally I would fucking be like, you need to
Settle
knock
the
it
fuck
off
down.
with your pretentious bullshit. And I think that the reason it works is because they are so deliberate about when they do it, and they have impeccable actors.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I think the acting is really like the thing.
Yeah. The actors carry the show and give us room to allow things that we might not tolerate in a lesser show.
Yep.
Yeah. Because sometimes the show is super heavy-handed.
Oh my God,
it just is. I don't think anybody would argue. But...
And there have been episodes where that hasn't worked for me. So, a couple of the Matt episodes, for example. But, I don't know. I think Nora just feels so much more relatable to me. That when they do it with her, it just gets to me.
Right.
In a different way.
And plus, I mean, fucking Carrie Coons is a beast. Like,
oh my God.
You know. I feel like she could sell us anything, you know?
Probably.
She could probably take any script and we'd all be like, oh my God, it's the best thing ever.
Yeah, you know what? I would love to see her as like one of the women on Themyscira in
Wonder Woman?
Yeah. She'd be a pretty great Amazon. But so she sees the goat with his beads that they just like let out into the wild like a bunch of savages. Fucking shitbirds. Ugh. And she climbs towards this goat. It is a steep incline too.
Yeah, it is. And she doesn't make it on the first go run.
No. And so she like gets fucking dunked in mud, rolls down, has to turn back around, go back up again. And finally, like, takes on the sins.
Literally puts them on her own shoulders.
And brings the goat home with her. It's just too much.
Yeah.
I mean, and I loved it. It wasn't too much like, oh, stop it. It was super emotional.
Oh my God.
Her climbing to get this goddamn goat.
Yeah. And then to see her walking with it.
Yep.
Back to her home and then to feed it. And it's just like, goddamn show. We get it.
Yeah, she's just, you know, it's like, yeah.
And also, like, to remember that at the party, she doesn't put any beads on the goat.
Yeah, that's like, exactly what I was,
She doesn't unburden herself at the party. Nope. Kevin does. She doesn't.
That's like, the whole thing at the party is how she doesn't participate in what anyone is doing. She holds herself removed from it all. And it's not until she is by herself and literally crashes and flips over her bike and is laying in the street alone that she's like, hey, you know what? Maybe I should look at what made me crash and burn just now.
You know, but doesn't that feel right for her though? Like, doesn't she need to fucking spill on her bike and like crash into the road?
Well, and that, like, it feels like, you know, I've said before, I am really bad, and I've gotten better since my father died, but I could not show emotion around people when it came to like being vulnerable. I went to like a few different retreats and things where you were supposed to kind of open up to your partner, and all I did was make jokes. That's how I coped with being uncomfortable and trying to be vulnerable. I was like, no, I'm going to make this ridiculous. That's how I'm going to do this. And this is going to be on my terms because I'm treating it as a big joke. And once I was alone, I could burst into tears. Even one of the people running one of the retreats actually could tell and was like, all right, you can't do this without everyone here. I get that. So why don't you walk to the cliff at the edge of this path down in the woods and scream. Go down there by yourself and scream. And it was a good walk. And I went and I screamed. Really screamed. And I came back And it was a while back. And when I got there, everybody was sitting there dead silent. And one of the girls said, remind me to take you with me in case I get mugged. Because apparently they all heard that shit loud and clear from wherever the hell I had been. And not only did they hear it, my throat went hoarse. And then I couldn't talk for like 2 weeks. And so this whole thing with how she keeps that shit bottled up tight, will not show anybody. Even when she's alone, she like can't be honest with herself unless it gets really, really bad.
Right.
And once it comes out, it is a obliteration. Like, it's not just I'm finally releasing. No. That's not how it works with her. She's an all or nothing person.
Yeah. Agreed.
I just like, this felt 1,000% relatable. Just, this is completely how I handle shit. I am not good at it at all. And I think a lot of people are surprised by that because I can be so open on the podcast about things that I've gone through and like my history and and being like self-aware about that stuff. But if you listen, I make jokes about it. I distance myself from it, and I use logic as a barrier.
Right.
And don't really get into it because God knows I'm not bursting into tears on my own podcast more than like, what, 3 times?
Yeah.
This time?
I was thinking about how, like, I am fairly active on Facebook, but I don't really share that much about myself personally on Facebook. And I think sometimes people, because you don't really pay attention to everything that every person posts, you just kind of notice who's around a lot and who's not. And people think, oh, well, she's on Facebook all the time. But I'm not really saying shit about me, though. You know, there are a few times where I do, but it's really not very often. So I also understand that sort of, I'm around and I might even talk about stuff sometimes, but really, if you pay attention, I'm not really telling you anything that's important about me. Because it's just really difficult to do for me, you know.
That's fair.
I joke a lot on the podcast about being super repressed, which I am.
Don't get me wrong. I am a disaster.
I am a hot mess. But you know, for some people it comes easier to just to have all this shit out, you know. And for some of us, it's not so easy. And some of us have to fucking tumble head first over our bike, you know, and smash into the fucking concrete to get it, you know, or smash our bodies full force into a bathroom door to realize that we don't really want to be stuck inside of it. We thought we wanted to be stuck inside the bathroom, but no, we really didn't.
I just like the whole, like, sharing things on Facebook thing is just, that's a really interesting point to bring up because it is so easy to say that somebody's around a lot or they share it, but, like, if I share things like personal struggles, like real actual, like, I'm having a hard time with this thing or that thing, I don't usually share that until after I've kind of got it figured out.
Right.
I almost never share in the midst of my, like, breakdown about it. Mostly because I don't need 1 million people up in my, like, messages going, hey, are you all right? Is everything, can I do anything?
If I post anything that's even, it could be construed as a personal plea of some kind, because it is so uncommon, my inbox will fucking blow up.
This is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I hate that. I feel bad hating it because people are trying to be, like, cool and nice, but
right. I posted some Fiona Apple lyrics one time, and I was legit just posting the fucking song because I love it. And Steve made a joke like, "Are you trying to tell me something?" And like 20 people were like, "Yeah, no shit, we thought you were trying to say something." Dude, it's a song. It's a song.
I feel like somebody shared a photo of a greeting card from the other day that just said, you're posting a lot of song lyrics on Facebook and we're worried about you. It was like a greeting card for like millennials or something. But yeah, like I said, I feel bad because people are offering because they have better hearts than mine.
Right.
And I just am not interested. It's the last thing I want. And I was talking to a friend who recently lost her dad. And this friend is like me in that way. She lost her dad. I was like, oh, geez, I'm so sorry. And then I left her the fuck alone. Even though we are good enough friends that if I was like, hey, you need anything, it would have been fine. I don't think she would have been mad. But I just somehow was like, I don't think she wants that. And then sure enough, we like FaceTime the other day. And she was like, if these people don't stop getting up in my inbox and making me answer them, this is my morning time. I don't want to deal with you. Don't make me go through my inbox and respond for 2 hours. I was like, oh, I knew it. I knew it. I knew we were friends for a reason. I just don't like it. I was saying to you earlier, I like having my posts on Facebook public because then people share them and I get attention, and I love attention. I love attention when I can control the attention. When it's on my terms, what is being said, and the conversation is circulating around a thesis statement that I have made. That's fine. But I'm not just going to put my shit out there for anybody to be like, oh, geez, what's going on with her? No. It's real vague. I wonder if is it this? Is it this other thing? Well, what if it's this other thing? No. Yeah. There's...
And I don't get down like that at all.
Another reason why we're friends.
Like, I don't want any of the attention. Not even a drop of it.
Said the woman who has a growing famous podcast.
But against my better judgment.
I hate attention. She weeped into her microphone. But like, I do get what you mean. And this is why, if any shit happens with me, you'll know that shit's going down because you don't hear from me at all. Mm-hmm. That's how, like, on Facebook. But, I'll message you right away. Yeah. I'll blow your fucking phone right up. You'll be at work and somebody be like, can you turn your fucking notifications off? Jesus Christ. Anyway, long tangent on our handling of stress and trauma.
Right.
Enjoy, everyone. So, in another moment of the show doing too goddamn much, she goes inside to get food for this goat, and she comes out, and the goat is eating the messages of love.
Oh my god.
This poor sinful goat is starved for love.
Oh my god.
They just love themselves a little too much, I think. I think they're feeling themselves.
Like, you just picture them in the writer's room. All right, guys, get this.
I just want to hear, like, just one example of somebody being like, don't you think that's a little heavy-handed?
And then the whole room is like, no.
Or, if they said yes, what the fuck was it?
Oh my god.
What was so heavy-handed that this show was like, I think that's a little much.
That's a bit much for us, guys. Let's do this other thing that is slightly less heavy-handed in comparison. Oh my god.
It really is something that, like, I wish that I could go back in time and tell myself I would one day love this shit, because I used to get so mad in English class when we had to do stuff on symbolism.
Same.
Oh, I hated it.
And again, I know we just said this, but I have to say it again. It is remarkable that pattern and their tendency to do this sort of thing didn't completely turn me off from the series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is a prime example of tropes working.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people will be like, well, isn't that like really derivative, or isn't that a little bit much? Yeah, like things can be that and still be great.
That's the thing. They can still be great. Which I think we are in a space right now where we're quick to throw shit away.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because we recognize it. But sometimes that shit is still good. And sometimes it can be used, you know, and it can function in a way to tell a story that's worth telling.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that you really just can't throw away. Like, this story is a story worth telling, what they gave us for 3 seasons.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
And I would be sad if it didn't happen. Like, I would be sad if this wasn't part of my life.
How would you know? How would that?
On a cellular level. My soul.
I fucking knew you'd say cellular level. I knew it. Yeah, so this is like the kind of thing that I really try and keep in mind with my writing, because sometimes I feel like such pressure to be just original. And I have to remember, you don't always have to be, you don't even have to mostly be original. You just need to do it really well. Mm-hmm. You need to invest yourself in it. If you're going to do it, if you're going to be derivative, if I'm using like the least flattering word, or if you're going to use tropes, or just well-trodden ground, commit to that shit.
Yeah. And this show
okay,
totally
this is what I'm
that.
doing.
They completely, you know what? That's it. This show 100% committed to what they were telling.
Mm-hmm.
Like, throughout the whole thing. And that carries, you know?
Yep.
That really does a lot of the heavy lifting.
Mm-hmm.
If the people telling the story believe in the story that they're telling you. And there's no, like, second guessing around it. No fucking, you know, dancing around it. They're just like, yeah, this is what we're doing. This is what we're giving you.
Yeah, I think that really is what it is. And not only that they committed to it in that they, as writers, decided, I'm going whole hog on this, but that they knew that was what they were doing in the first place.
Yep, agreed.
Which it feels like so much of the time writers are just like, well, here's a story and we're going to start telling it, but we don't really know what this is yet.
Or we're going to back into it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, man.
So anyway, we're just sitting on this one fucking scene.
I know, right?
So she's sitting there reading these messages. And here comes Kevin, mad as hell.
Yeah, he comes tearing in. He's got some shit to say.
And he is just like, you know why I found you? Because I fucking knew you weren't dead. Even though everybody kept telling me that you were dead, I knew that you weren't. I just could feel that you were still alive. Yep. And so I spent every single 2-week vacation in Australia looking for your ass.
Yep. His face when he's delivering the speech. He's like, I couldn't let myself believe that you were gone. Even after Matt told me what happened, I didn't believe it. And then you didn't come to the fucking funeral. And I still didn't believe it.
Yep.
Which, like, if there was going to be a moment where you were like, all right, she must really be gone, that would be it, right?
One would think.
But, and you know, there's a cynical small part of me that thinks, okay, Kevin couldn't let this go. He became obsessive about it. And has to hang on to it in the same way that he had to hang on to his trips to wherever he was going. You know, like one just replaced the other.
I see what you're saying.
But at the end of his speech, I was like, nope, that's not it.
Yeah.
But there was a moment where I really did feel that. I was like, oh, is he just doing the thing? Is he just replacing one escapism with another?
Mm-hmm.
But by the end of it, I believed that it wasn't that.
Yeah, I think, like, I get what you mean, but for me, the reason I didn't feel that way about it was the way he was describing how, like, just kind of soul-sucking it was to do. Because he described to Lori, I've never felt more alive than when I was over there. I'm not scared at all. But this, he would go and try and find her and then go home saying that he was never going to do that again.
Yep.
Why am I doing this?
Yep.
So it's, it was a sacrifice of himself instead of something that he enjoyed that he was like weirdly getting off on.
And the way he describes it, he's like, I've spent every vacation in fucking Australia, which makes it sound like he did not really want to be there.
Yep.
And she looks at him while he's giving this speech, and he's finally telling the truth, and he's, putting it all out there. And she's looking at him with this kind of face that's like, huh. Like a Lori, huh.
Yeah.
And when he's finally done, she just goes, want some tea? And he is...
That's when he goes, huh?
Yeah, he's what?
Yep.
Yeah, I was going to make some tea. You want some tea?
And then she tells him the story.
Oh my God. What did you think of this
This was just so unexpected because... Of course, by now, I just figure she called it off, got out. And she's like, oh, no, I went over. And I was like, wait, I'm sorry. What? And she went over, and apparently it looked a lot like our world.
How horrifying is this?
And it turns out that they lost, like, way more people.
Everybody.
It was basically like the inverse.
Yeah. We lost 2% of the population. That means they lost 98. Everybody is gone.
So weird.
Yeah, right? Like, I know we didn't spend a lot of time talking about what we think may have happened with the departure because that wasn't part of what the show was about. Mm-hmm. And I think that's great, too, because people didn't spend so much time thinking, what do you think it was? What do you think it was? So that when they give us this, you're just like, holy fuck, I never even thought of that.
Well, but didn't we say something like this? Like, what if they went somewhere where, like, I feel like there was some point, and listeners, if you are remembering what I'm talking about, let me know, because I feel like I said something about, like, what if where she goes, they lost people, or don't know, or don't have, or like what, or, and I might have even mentioned this before this whole thing with her, trying this experiment, that it might have been an idea of mine from like season 2. But it's such an interesting like moment for her because she sees her kids and it takes her forever to get there because there's no people to fly planes. Yeah. And she sees them and her husband with this pretty woman who I am assuming is the woman he was having an affair with.
That's so funny you said that because that's exactly what I said when this aired. I was like, how funny would it be if Nora's husband ends up with the woman that Kevin was banging that departed? I said the same thing.
Oh, that Kevin was banging. No, I meant because her husband had been having an affair.
No. We see her. We see her in the first season.
Oh, so she didn't depart.
She didn't depart. Nora like goes to the playground and like stalks her a little bit in the first season.
So you think it's the woman that Kevin was having an affair with that departed in the middle of sex?
I just thought it would be a weird thing. Got nothing to base it on.
That is a weird thing, though. Like I forget that he was like fucking a departure.
Mm-hmm.
But just how fucking flipped out would you be? Jesus Christ. And you wouldn't be able to tell anybody about it. Nope. So she realizes that they have each other there, that they're happy. And they have like found a way to make this work in this fucking hellscape. Mm-hmm. Because
they were one of the lucky
people
ones.
That's what does it. They're what keep you going.
Yeah.
And she doesn't belong here.
Yeah. I love the idea that in our side of this story, the side of the story that we've been partaking in, Nora is one of the biggest victims, right? She's one of the unluckiest people. Mm-hmm. But on this other side, her family is one of the lucky ones. Mm-hmm. And she says, I was just a ghost.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I'm glad that she chose to just leave, but I wonder if she had come out and been like, hey guys.
I can't even imagine.
What would they have even done?
You know, because, I mean, I don't know. I forget the number. They say the number in the series. I feel like it's like 180 or 280 people have gone across and done this whatever this is, right?
Yeah.
But 280 or 180 or whatever the number is that shows up on this other side to where all the departed are, it's still such a small number, right? So I feel like someone like Nora popping up would be super rare. You know, it's not like they would be like, oh yeah, our neighbors down the street also had somebody who came back.
Yeah, I would love to hear the story of somebody who came over and stayed and was happy.
Yeah.
You know?
She mentions briefly that, you know, when she's telling Kevin how she got back, that she, you know, tracked down the guy who invented the machine. So she finds him, and he's still there on this other side, you know, being and living and doing whatever it is he does. But we get no idea what his life is like, you know.
Yeah.
Or, you know, did he reconnect with the people he went back for, or any of that? We don't get any of that.
Yeah. And that's how she manages to get back, is that she has him build another machine because he knows how.
Right. There were all kinds of, like, you know, people talking about how kind of, like, that doesn't make sense, you know. Because if you think about it, when he built the machine on our side, he had all these resources and people available to help him. And the odds are he didn't have that over there. But by this point in the show, I'm not quibbling with like, those small details.
Get over it. I mean, and plus the fact that, like, maybe he had people to help him, but that, like, just because there are fewer people doesn't mean that he's just going to have no help. And he's done it once. Maybe he knows an even more efficient, better way to build it this time. You know, like, so, yeah, that is so not a factor for me. Who cares? Get fixated on things that matter, guys. And yeah, so she comes back, but she decides to stay in Australia because it had been so long that she felt going back to see Kevin again that it was just too late.
Yeah. Kevin, and then
or she anybody. Says, and you wouldn't have believed me.
Oh my God. Well, these last two sentences of this series fucking killed me. Just killed me.
It's just, like, and this is, it really, what we were saying like 3 episodes ago, if they just talked to each other, if she had talked to him like ages ago about what he had gone through and where he had gone and what he had seen, when she did this, there would be
no question,
no doubt that he would believe her, and she wouldn't have to live alone in pain.
Right. I love too that she tells him, because she says, you know, you were right to say that to me in the hotel. He's like, wants to apologize because what he said was shitty, and he said it out of being shitty. But she's like, no, you were right. You know, there was always going to be something. There were always going to be bulletproof vests. There were always going to be hugs from holy men. You know, I had to go do this thing. It was never going to be any different.
Yeah.
And I love that they included that.
Yeah, I like, because when she was like, oh, you were right, for a minute I thought she meant when he said, you want people to feel sorry for you. And that I didn't feel was fair.
Yeah.
So I was like, wait, he was right. What are you saying he was right about? And then she was like, basically just, you know, that I need to move past this somehow. And if that means going to be with them, then that's what I need to do. I was like, okay.
Yeah. Oh, man.
And I thought for a second the show was shading her a little bit.
Oh, like, yeah. But, and then it just kind of ends with, she says, why do you believe me? And he says, because you're here. And that's so heavy. It's so fucking loaded, because she calls herself a ghost in that other world, right? She gets to the other side, to the departed side, and she's a ghost. She's kind of just been a ghost this whole time in this world too.
Oh yeah,
right?
Definitely.
And so when he says that, you're here, and I think he says, I'm here. You just feel like, oh shit, finally.
Right.
Yeah. I loved it. I didn't love it the first time, but my God, do I love it now.
I loved it the second time. And I just love that it's just like finally they're telling each other shit. Yeah. Oh my God, It took long enough.
It really did. It took so much time, and even after all this time and everything she's been through and all these years Kevin spent searching for her every time he had a vacation, it still took this false start of him showing up and still thinking it wasn't enough to just tell the truth. Shit. Yeah. And to think that when she walks out of the wedding, if he had just gone home,
Yeah.
That would have been that.
But. Yeah, I mean, there are so many moments in life like that where you just think back, if I had just not done that one thing, everything would have been shot to hell. Or at least just different. But usually it feels like shot to hell.
Yep.
And, not to say that, it's not as if in this conversation he tells her, oh, well, I went back to the other side because it turns out I am a little bit immortal and I blew up the afterlife. Or whatever that life is. So she doesn't know about that. When she says something about him being immortal, it's a joke.
But, yeah, because she's going off of the fucking book that Matt wrote.
Right. But there's no need for him to share that here because we needed her to believe something.
Yes.
That was the main thing. We knew Kevin could feel it and believe that there was something else going on, even if he didn't agree with the Messiah bullshit.
Right.
But she was the one who didn't feel like there was anything. There was just this gaping, bleeding hole. Yeah.
And because she never believed in anything, it made it even harder for her to trust or believe that anyone would believe her. She couldn't even imagine that anyone would believe her.
Yep.
Because she spent so much time not only disbelieving people, but, let's not forget what her job was.
Exactly.
To actively disprove shit. So, yeah, I mean, this will, hands down, one of my favorite TV shows ever. From start to finish, I just loved every minute of it.
It's just really so emotional. It's shocking how it got to me with scenes that you would think would get to me. I was just kind of like, oh, come on. And then weird, banal shit. I was like, oh my God, why is life so beautiful and tragic?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sad that it's not coming back. This is it. This is all we get of them.
That is a really good, solid ending, though. That story couldn't really have gone on much longer, I don't think, and sustained itself because it was so much.
And considering the world they created, I don't know if we could have asked for a better ending.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I'm sad that this is it, but fuck, man, what a good show.
It really was.
Yeah. I enjoyed talking about it with you.
Yeah, me too. I hope that you guys enjoyed our coverage of it. This is the kind of show I feel so strongly about what it is that I have been tempted to listen to other podcasts on it, but then I don't want to because I just feel like I'd be annoyed with them misinterpreting things that I felt were very much very clear.
Right.
And in totally the opposite direction.
I'll tell you. It's fun to read about now that you're done. There's a lot of really interesting stuff floating around out there.
I had read a thing or two in once we finished the first two seasons when we were on that hiatus, and most of it was very surface.
Yeah,
it didn't, so it was interesting, and sometimes they'd point out things that I was like, oh yeah, but mostly it didn't go as deep as I feel like we do.
The things that I enjoy the most tend to be show produced stuff almost. Not show produced, but that involve people that are involved with the show. There are a lot of really good interviews floating around with Riza Aslan, who is the sort of religious consultant. And he's really...
that guy. Didn't he write that Jesus book?
He sure did. I think he's brilliant. And he's been a consultant for the show. And there are a couple of really good interviews with him that are floating around that I would say are worth reading. And there are a couple of interviews with the creator that I think are really worth reading. But a lot of the recap and review stuff is, whatever. But there are a couple of good Reddit threads about the show.
Yeah, I think that was what I got more out of a lot of times was like comments from people than the actual articles.
Yeah.
Because this is a show that I think lends itself much more to discussion than it does to just like, presenting a thesis on it.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. Well, all right.
All right, cool. Another series under my belt. Look at that.
Our belt?
We don't share a belt. Oh. That would be real awkward. But yeah, I downloaded a different podcast app the other day because like the Apple one is so annoying. And I just checked Unspoiled because I wasn't even sure if we were available. It's on Overcast. And when I saw all the shows that popped up, and I had to like scroll up, I think 3 times to get to the bottom of the Unspoiled list, I was like, God damn, I have a lot of shows. Like I forget sometimes, But this one was definitely one of my favorite ones so far.
Yay!
I really like this.
I'm so glad that you liked it.
Yeah. I'm glad that it felt like it. I feel like there were times where it felt like it got bogged down in itself. And I really feel like this last season, it kept itself from doing that.
Yeah. And it was, there being a shorter season. Probably.
That's probably part of it. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, okay then, lady.
Well, thank you everybody again so much for listening. Leave a review if you enjoyed the show, even though we're done and wrapping up. That doesn't mean that you can't still help us out because getting Unspoiled up to the top of the charts is still super, super helpful, even if it's an old show. So make sure to leave a review and let us know how you liked it. And comment on Facebook and like us on Facebook. Facebook.com/UnspoiledPod, Twitter @UnspoiledShow, Instagram @UnspoiledPodcast. And you can find our website at unspoiledpodcast.com. And that's everything. You ready?
Yeah. All right, lady.
All right. Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
Someday he'll come along, the man I love, and he'll be big and strong, the man I love. And when it comes my way, I'll do my best to make him stay. He'll look at me and smile, I'll understand. Then in a little while he'll take my hand. And though it seems absurd, I know we both won't say a word. Maybe I shall meet him someday. Maybe Monday, maybe not. Still, I'm sure to meet him one day.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.